offer is a really vast array of academic experience. So I think the sort of like label of STEM is expanding and growing, but I think talks like these are helpful to break that barrier. But I don't know if anyone has anything else to add there.
The one thing I would add is I think sometimes when you think STEM, you think a very structured plan of study. And that can be the case for certain programs, but that's not across the board always how a STEM program works. So like I mentioned, we have combined majors, so students are actually able to study two things at the same time. So for example, you can study design and mechanical engineering. You can study AI and philosophy, or biology and business. So yes, there can sometimes be a very structured format to STEM majors, but depending on the institution, there can still be a lot of freedom and flexibility for you to explore multiple things at the same time, because we know that the world doesn't live in silos. This day and age, technology is being applied to every industry, even if it isn't considered STEM. And so you can explore those things and blend those passions together while you're in university.
Yeah, I was going to also add a little bit similar to what Kirsty was saying. So Purdue was founded as a university focused on educating students in mechanics and engineering and agriculture. So certainly that STEM stereotype and reputation is true, and we're really well known for STEM. But we also have incredible non-STEM programs that live in the shadows of our STEM. So we have a very comprehensive College of Liberal Arts. And one neat thing at Purdue is we allow all students who want a second degree in liberal arts to do that. So very common, like Christy was just mentioned, very common for our students to be studying mechanical engineering and political science, or computer science and creative writing. So students who are interested in STEM are not only tied to STEM at universities like Western and or Northeastern and Purdue.
Not too much else to add, but just to emphasize, WPI also has a humanities project. All of our students have to take 6 courses in the humanities and then do a project. So I don't think that calling us a STEM school gets anything wrong. We only offer one Bachelor of Arts, but we do have humanities in all of our requirements for our students. And for this project, some students are programming a robot to play the piano, and some students are writing a 20-page paper on the meaning of life. So, again, if you want to incorporate STEM into your humanities, you can, or you can keep it a bit separate. So, I don't want to say that calling us STEM doesn't reflect who we are, because it certainly does, but our largest department on campus is actually our humanities department, to make sure that students are able to take a course for this project that they're interested in.
I love that you guys are talking about all of these things because I think, I think again, there are some majors that you just are automatically like, these are STEM. But there are many majors that are actually categorized as STEM and they're not, like a lot of people wouldn't think that. So I'm putting that out on the chat. Is there anybody in the room that's like, well, what about this one? Is this categorized? Is this, does this count as STEM? And while people are saying that, is there a major at your institutions that you're like, people would be surprised that this is actually a STEM major?
Yeah, a few majors at Purdue that often we get asked about if they're STEM or not. Well, one is in our School of Business. Our School of Business has 9 majors. 5 of them qualify as being considered as STEM majors. So think supply chain management, business analytics, information management, and integrated business and engineering. And economics. So those are the areas of study that have enough STEM influence at Purdue to be considered STEM. And other majors that are sometime around those on the borderline cusp, our psychological sciences major is count as a STEM major at Purdue. And then UX design is another one. So it's a more of a design majors, but since it's so focused on computer and technology, user experience design is another one that comes to mind.
I felt like I shared my examples. Oh, I'm sorry, Elena. I felt like I shared my examples before, but the cool thing about a combined major is that if one of those majors is STEM designated, the combined major will also be STEM designated. So once again, like AI and philosophy, AI and linguistics, those sorts of things, it's an opportunity for you to really explore your passions in two areas. I always like to call it our College of Media Arts and Design. There's a variety of STEM designated, what we call CAMD majors, because they're blending things along with engineering or technology. So you can really think beyond just the traditional box of what's considered STEM, which I think is really neat.
Our programs that are economics, psychology, some schools that might offer these in Bachelor of Arts, they are all Bachelors of Science and STEM designated at our school. And then by the title, Industrial Engineering, you would not be confused that that is STEM designated, but it actually lives in our School of Business, but it still qualifies students for OPT extension. So some of our programs that aren't in our School of Engineering or our School of Arts and Sciences might still qualify you for that OPT extension just because the content is still STEM focused.
At Georgia Tech, in our College of Liberal Arts, we have econ, history, technology, and society is STEM designated, as well as global economics and modern languages. I'll also shout out our design majors. I think people assume architecture STEM designated, but for those who don't, architecture is STEM designated, as well as industrial design, which can be anywhere from thinking about how a human sits in a chair to how a human interacts with an app on their phone. That's always a really cool major. So sort of blends that technology and creativity space there.
Yeah, this is awesome. This is great. I love to encourage, the counselors who are kind of thinking about lists for their students that even if their student doesn't seem, like the engineer doesn't mean that they're not a STEM student. And so kind of talking through some of these potential subjects that could be STEM designated means that there could be a place where traditionally maybe you think it's more for a lab person. It might not be. Some of these majors, you're not going to actually be sitting in a lab. So, awesome. Okay, so we're going to move on because like a lot of people come on the Tuesday Talk because they want to know, well, what does this mean for my application process? What does this mean for building my list? But what does this mean for when I actually apply? So for the students and the counselors and the parents on the call, what do you think makes someone succeed in STEM? And as we're waiting for the chat, institutions, what makes a student successful at your institution? Don't be shy, friends. And technical expertise, great.
I can kick us off to answer this question. I think someone who can succeed in STEM shows just a genuine curiosity of things. I mentioned at the beginning our motto at Georgia Tech is progress and service. I think a sort of like additional thesis statement to that is we are interested in bringing in problem solvers and also maybe problem creators and then problem solvers. So I think someone who is interested in coming up with solutions to anything is someone who is successful in STEM.
I love problem creators. Disruptors is what we like to
Yeah,
call
yeah,
them.
thank you. Yeah.
At WPI, it will be someone who really likes to be hands-on and work in groups. Because of our project-based learning model, you are not going to be doing a lot of work on your own. It has to be someone who is interested in collaborating with other people. That's something we look for on the application. We want to make sure that you are not just used to it, but that you actually enjoy it because this is something you'll be doing pretty much every single day is working in teams and working on your hands while you're problem solving.
What I would add, because I fully agree with everything that's already been shared by Elena and Colin, is that there isn't a one type of student that can be successful in a STEM major. So of course, beyond, being a disruptor and, having intellectual curiosity, being able to work in groups, wanting to solve problems, you don't need to just do research on your application when you're applying, right? You don't need to just do robotics to be a successful STEM major. There is a really strong correlation between math and music. So you could be really involved in the performing arts. You could be really involved in volunteering or community service or at your local church. As long as you have that critical thinking, which I actually just pulled from one of our students who put in the chat, which is great, having that curiosity and that strength in the STEM academic areas, there's not one sort of student outside the classroom that we're looking for.
I completely agree with everything that's been said, so not much to add, but just thinking about that general overall passion for STEM, and then also just getting involved in all of our campuses once you're there, in whatever areas that you're interested in. So.
Yeah, we talked about stereotypes a little bit earlier. I wanted to kind of lean into that a little bit more. Is there a stereotype about students at your institutions? And is it true? One, is there a stereotype? And two, is it true? And we mentioned it a little bit kind of in the previous question, but I want to hone in on this a little bit in the sense of like, as students think about themselves succeeding on your campuses, is what they're hearing or what they might assume a correct assumption?
I would say the first thing that comes to mind, Gloria, is stereotype of a Purdue student, is that work hard, play hard mentality. We have something called Purdue Grit, and that just means essentially that our students are going to put in the work and work hard and go, not stop till the job is done. And then, of course, that will pay off with reward, whether that's the good grade or graduation or successful career or internship. So that's something that we often hear, and even here around campus, some of those buzzwords I just mentioned. And so that stereotype, I would say, yes, that is true.
I wouldn't say this is a stereotype about our students, but I would say one thing that comes to mind when you think of Northeastern in general is that we have many first year programs for students. Our students are not just starting in Boston. Less than 50% of our students do their first year in Boston. The majority of our incoming class is doing a year in London or in California, New York City. And that is definitely true. Like that is a big part of our philosophy as an institution. Like I said at the beginning of the call, we really want students to immerse themselves in different cultures and to be able to learn from different backgrounds. So I think historically we were known as a New England institution, but that is very much not the case anymore.
For us, I'd say there's the stereotype that students only want to be in the lab all the time, doesn't matter day of the week or time of day. I would not say that this is true for the university as a whole. You are going to find students like that probably in any STEM program because that is their sole passion and that is what they want to be doing. They want to be in the maker space on a Friday night, but we also have an extensive athletics program. We have a very large music program. We have we have over 275 clubs on our campus. So that stereotype might hold true for some students because they came to WPI for the facilities and that's what they're going to be doing. But there's such a wide expanse of what other students are doing throughout the day, throughout the week, that it does not hold true, I'd say, overall for most of our students.
Similar to my peers on the call, I don't think it's like out of the ordinary that students think Georgia Tech is all study and academics, and that is very much true. But I think I mentioned earlier there's a breadth of opportunity and experience here, and I know like as young people, y'all are probably interested in lots of different things, and you always bring that to the campus you end up going to. And so I would say students aren't just one thing, lots of different things.
I want to ask because, because of the specificity of like a STEM designated major, and some of these majors requiring a lot of coursework to be able to graduate on time. What is your institution's kind of policies maybe on kind of applying with a major in mind, changing majors, like all this type of thing? Because I know that in some institutions, when we apply, we don't have to designate a major, but in others, you do have to apply maybe even to a specific school. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. At Purdue, students do have to apply directly to a major. So they'll select the major that they are applying to on the application, and they can select a first choice and an alternate choice major. With the exception I did mention earlier about engineering, you can select which type of engineering you're interested in, but we're considering all engineering applications the same, and you'll see that we have the first year engineering program, or FYE. Otherwise, you're applying directly to the major that you chose. As far as dual majors, double majors, that is all sorted out once a student enrolls. There's nothing during the application process, so it's very flexible after the student enrolls to be able to do that. I mentioned earlier about students being able to do a degree also in our College of Liberal Arts. So that's something that can be added once the student's there. It's part of our Degree Plus program. Most students typically can still do it in the 4 years, but it really depends on the student's plan of study.
We ask students to put their major on the application just to get an idea of what they're interested in, but we do not admit by major. Once you're accepted to WPI, you are accepted into all of our schools and all of our programs. About 20% of our students enroll as undecided, and about 50% of our students will change their major at least once during the 4 years, because we do make it flexible to make sure that they are graduating with what they're excited about, not just what they put on their application. That's some flexibility we are able to offer as a smaller school.
At Georgia Tech, you don't apply to a specific college, you just apply to Georgia Tech generally. But you do list a primary major of interest, and we're sort of using that to contextualize your application, what you're interested in. And then once you get admitted, you will say, like, yes, I do want to study that. You can also say, yeah, it's been 6 months. I actually don't want to do that type of engineering, or I would rather do this instead. You have the opportunity to change at that time.
So at Northeastern, you can apply into a major, you can be undeclared in a college, or you can be undeclared. We're super flexible, kind of like Elena said. Students can change their major even after they're admitted, and you could go from a theater major to an engineering major if you wanted. If you're admitted to the university, we want you to land in the program that is most interesting to you. So because of that, acceptance rates from a student that's declared versus undeclared, versus a particular college versus another college are essentially the same. The differences are very negligible. So we always recommend that students just put on the application where you are at in your major exploration, because we would prefer if you just start where you like in the best home for you, because it's not going to necessarily change the outcome of your admissions decision.
I think it's as a mom of kids who I know they don't really know what they want to do yet. Even now, they're already in college and they're still that kind of, I don't know what I want to do with my life. Um, I think there's some pressure though, because there is a place where you have to either pick a major or show a major interest. There's some pressure. And so, what would be your advice for students as they're thinking? Because I think they assume that since they have to pick a major, that everything, as you said, Colin, contextualizes their application. They're thinking like, oh no, that means everything I do needs to seem like I'm ready to be a mechanical engineer. So do you have advice on how to like approach the application if there is such a desire for them to kind of know a major?
I can start with that since at Purdue you do select which major you're applying to when you are doing the application process. And certainly we do want to know that you have a solid understanding of the major and the program that you're applying to, and we'll ask you why you're applying to that major and you'll have to explain it. But within the application review process, it does not need to all be about that specific major, or we want to, see the entire breadth of you as a person. So of course we want to see if you done anything related to the major, but it can be also not related to the major as well. So I don't know if that. So I also encourage students to think about those things they've been involved with all throughout high school, whether that's, and especially those non-STEM focused things. So whether that's sports, music, community service organizations, and it can be those things that are related to STEM, so robotics. So again, we're not looking for anything really specific that's major related when we're looking at the application. So the essay, those extracurricular activities, they do not need to be related to the major at all. But we do, of course, want you to ensure that you have a solid understanding of the program and the major. And as you know, if it's already been mentioned too, there is flexibility. So if students are admitted, they.
Did we lose Danik? Maybe someone else can pick up. I think we knew what he was saying about flexibility.
I actually had a pretty similar answer to Danik, especially with how we approached application review, but I can add some color about, I think this brings up the topic of like authenticity. I think it's more as a student, you should think about what we want, less of what you think we want to read and what you should share with us. Like this is your application, your exemplification of you. So I think authenticity and what's interesting to you specifically, if that's something really academic specific, awesome. If that's not, also awesome. I think just taking the time to be authentic there sort of hopefully relieves some of the pressure and lets you be able to say like, here's me bringing myself in this application and showcasing what makes me so awesome.
Yeah. And we mentioned too, I mean, some of the things that make a student successful on your campus are things that don't only show up in a science related activity or a science related, like, I mean, Christy, you mentioned music and math have a connection, right? So if you play a musical instrument, if you've done a sport that shows some of that grit that, that Danik was mentioning, Purdue grit, like grit is some resilience. Some person in the chat said, persistence when facing failures, that can come in all sorts of forms and fashions, doesn't have to be a major specific or a subject specific type of activity. But that leads me into my next question of, give a few more examples of what tells you that a student is going to thrive on your campus, but also in STEM subjects. I think one kind of low hanging fruit, I think a lot of times in STEM field is math. Having some ability to do math is going to be essential in kind of your path. But what other thing? Yeah, that's an example. But what other things tell you that a student's going to thrive, in the subjects that they can pursue at your institutions?
Elena, go ahead, because I went first last time.
I was just going to say that while we do a holistic review and we read every page of the application, math is very important. But it's not just how well you're doing in math and that you're getting straight A's in all your math classes. Something that I think that is a bit more important is that you are choosing to challenge yourself in math and science. So depending on what your school is offering, you are not just choosing to take the lowest level math class. You are choosing to take something that's a bit more challenging, and whether you are doing really well in it or you're doing not quite as well as you would in the lower level, challenging yourself in math and in science, I think is a big indicator that you'll be able to thrive in STEM because you're used to the challenge and to adapting and to maybe learning something that doesn't come quite as easily to you as you might be used to with all the math and science classes that you've taken up until this point. So I think the challenge of those math and science classes is a big indicator, in addition to what we've been talking about for the last 30 minutes. Engaging in different clubs, engaging in group work, having an interest in that school, having, passions and curiosity, all of that is really important as well and sort of makes this holistic application.
What I was going to add is that, like we talked about before, the world doesn't live in vacuum spaces anymore. Technology and STEM is being applied to all sorts of industries and is really ingrained in everything that we do. Even in college admissions, technology is a part of college admissions, right? And so I think beyond what Elena was talking about with just like having an interest and a strength in actual STEM math and science courses, but understanding that these things can be applied to multiple areas. Like you don't need to fit into a box. There's no box. And really, I think the way the world is headed is that all of this is just going to continue to blend together more and more. And so something that we like to see on applications is students that really have that interdisciplinary perspective. And yes, for a STEM student, you may really have a strong focus in technology and engineering and mathematics and science, but how can that be applied to other areas? What sort of industries can that be used in? Because there's very few things that live just in that one silo at this day and age.
Hi everyone, I'm back. I'm not sure what's happening with my internet here at my house right now, but happy to be back and can take any further questions. I did miss the question that was asked just now.
Yeah. We're glad you're back, Dana. There is a question because you cut off when you were talking about transferring, like flexibility. So um, is there you said there's flexibility in potentially changing majors, but we didn't quite get the full answer.
Yeah, I think that's what I was saying when I froze there, is that there is that flexibility for students to either request consideration for another major at any point during the process, or once they arrive on campus to work with an academic advisor to either add those dual or double majors or switch into a major that may be the best fit for the student.
Okay, so since you're bringing that up, I do want to like put the nefarious hat on um, and know that there's a lot of chit chat around, high school students where like, oh, I'm going to like apply for this other major because it's easier to get in with that major. But when I get there, I'm going to switch. So, and I know this happens at Georgia Tech and at Purdue. So speak to that, like how difficult is it actually? And, I want to go back to that authenticity piece, but like, why would you discourage that?
Yep, no, absolutely. Definitely that it would be discouraged. Yes, it does happen, and we're well aware of it. We call it the back door of students trying to get in the back door to whatever major or program they're going into. We always say there's never a guarantee you can switch into the major that you are truly interested in if you're applying to something that you're just trying to get into the university. There's never a guarantee to be able to switch over into that. And that is true. At Purdue, there are some majors, yes, it's very easy to switch into, and others you have to meet very specific criteria, whether that's a GPA, a set of classes that needs to be done. And in some cases, that program may not accept students into change major. So students who are maybe trying to get into Purdue and then switch into our computer science program, for example, or our nursing program, we tell them there's no guarantee, and it's in some cases it's not possible. So
Yeah, got it. Anything to add from other institutions about backdoors?
I mean, like one thing that maybe is just a general statement, like certain schools have policies that might allow you to change, but those can always be turned the other direction at any point. So I think it's just really important to be authentic, like you were talking about, Gloria. So yeah, just be authentic.
Yeah.
The only thing I would add is we don't have this, right? Like I talked about, like it's super easy to change majors before admission or after admission. And I'm only calling that out because this goes back to the thing we're always sharing is that it depends, right? Like every institution is going to be different. But I do think a good rule of thumb, so you don't need to worry about this from institution to institution, is to, like we've been talking about, be authentic. Just put down truly what you feel and what you want to study on your application. And then you don't need to worry about, making sure that you can change later or if there's flexibility. Because if you're just authentic on the application, then institutions will be able to review you and select you for programs that you truly are able to be a good fit for.
Awesome. Okay, a few more questions. We have talked a lot about the academics of your institutions. Want to ask a little bit about kind of the vibe. because each of you are kind of a different institution, even though, like, again, there's that stereotype like, oh, you're STEM heavy, but the vibes probably feel different. So a little bit about your school spirit, a little bit of kind of the energy, um, how, how people spend their time outside of the lab or the classroom. Anyone want to start? I'm gonna make Colin start because I'm biased. My kid goes to Georgia Tech, so I love talking about the vibes at Georgia Tech, but I'm gonna let Colin talk about it.
Yeah, I'll try to keep this short because I could give a whole session on it. But we're located in Atlanta, Georgia. If you look at a map, if like my face is the city of Atlanta, we're sort of like right in the middle. You think it feels pretty urban, but I find it to have a really unique footprint in the middle of the city. Can sort of look around eye level and see this really strong campus identity, and then you look up and see the skyline, which just means that that whole city is waiting for you to go out and explore and have fun. Anything from like tons of music and arts here in Atlanta, a really global food scene, travel to and from the city of Atlanta is really easy. I love living here. I think it's so great, especially as a younger person, to just wake up and be like, okay, what's waiting out there for me? Is it a new like restaurant that I've never tried? Is it like some new hike I can go on? Is it like walking in the park with my friends? Whatever it is. I think Georgia Tech students do a good job of taking advantage of that, especially on campus. But since we're literally in the middle of the city, they can go out and do all the fun things they love. So I'll stop there.
For Purdue, I always tell students to think of Purdue West Lafayette as a small city in itself. So 50,000 students on campus. Purdue has its own police station, fire department, our own airport. So truly is a small city where everything you need for your college experience is right there on campus. Our students are very involved, so also close to 1,000 clubs, organizations to be getting involved with on campus. So that's kind of the general culture of that traditional college campus you may traditionally think of in a college town is West Lafayette. And we also have our location in Indianapolis, which is going to be a larger city. We call it our urban environment or campus in an urban environment, and it is more of a STEM focused campus in the city of Indianapolis.
Northeastern is quite a large institution. We have students from all 50 states and from over 130 different countries. So you really are going to find folks from every walk of life. Because we have students starting in multiple first year programs, the vibe and what that first year experience is going to look different from place to place. So students who are starting on the Upper East Side is going to feel different than folks who are starting in Oakland versus Boston versus Rome. And so when students are applying to us, I really want them to think about, what sort of first year experience you're looking for, because you're able to rank those programs on your application. Beyond that, though, so students are very globally minded. They're having lots of global experiences when they're with us. But my favorite tradition is once everyone comes back to Boston, if they're in our signature programs, they're able to all finish up in Boston. We always have graduation at Fenway Park. So we're very much right in downtown Boston, which is a really, really fun part of the student experience, and is a really nice way to kind of wrap up your time with us too.
WPI is about an hour from Boston. We're in a city called Worcester. That's about 200,000 people. And then our campus is a little over 5,000. So a bit of a smaller feel. And I like to give the example of when I went to a football game one Friday night, and there's tons of people filling the stands for the football game, whether you're there to watch the football or to see the marching band. But then I went to go walk around. And we do have Greek life, so the fraternities and sororities are usually hosting some event, and they were that night. There's almost always students in the makerspace. WPI had to actually close the makerspace at midnight because otherwise our students would not leave. They would not leave the makerspace. And then there's students that are just also in their dorms or somewhere around the city of Worcester. So really, however you want the campus to be in your spare time, I saw it all happening that one Friday night that I was walking around.
Awesome. Well, we only have a few minutes left, and I know there's one more question I want to ask, but before I do that, I wanted to put contact information up because we've gotten a little snippet and taste of what these institutions are, but They have plenty of stuff on their website, and they do their own sessions that are very, very institution specific. And so if you had questions that were not answered, please reach out to them, go to their websites to make sure that you have a way to get information. My last question is kind of a big one to end on, but given AI growth and all sorts of things, what do you see as kind of a gap between what students are learning in the classroom and what they actually need in the workspace? Now that you're in the workspace too, have been in it for a while, you're seeing it as well. And what can students do now? Like, what should they be doing now to like make sure that gap is bridged, whether it's like before they get to you or even like when they're on your college campuses? Like, what should they be doing to make sure that that gap is being bridged? Big question to end on. Sorry, guys.
So our president believes in three literacies, which is really embedded in our entire curriculum. And so there is technology literacy, data literacy, but also human literacy. And so yes, there is absolutely, value in building, understanding data and technology and actual content in the classroom. But the thing that you can't learn in the classroom is human literacy and how to be empathetic and how to be a communicator. And so absolutely, I think that this is, while you're going through the search process, make sure that you're really working on yourself, figuring out who you are, figuring out how to be empathetic and how to communicate that to others, because that's what's really going to shine through on your application. It's not just going to be your grades or your test scores if you're submitting them. It's really who you are as a person. And I think that aligns really nicely with what Initial View is doing, and something that will translate into many different fields, many different industries for decades to come, even after you finish your time with us at university.
I'll go next because my answer that I was thinking was very similar to what Christy just said. So I was also thinking about those communication skills or people skills and being able to work effectively with others in group settings. So that can, as far as preparing what to do, I think there's, of course, you can work on those things in your day-to-day life and whatever those settings look like, but also just practicing interview skills and those people skills. I think that will go a long way and also will serve you not only during your college experience, but also when you are going to do life after university for internships and job prospects.
Anything to add, Colin and Alina?
You summed it up beautifully. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm all for the having conversations piece, because I think that is what is going to set us apart in the end. My son, I'll end on this. He is starting his junior year at Georgia Tech, and he's actually going to be doing a co-op in the fall at a payments company, a fintech payments company. And I had the pleasure of asking the head of engineering there, kind of, what are you looking for in your new crop of co-op students, but also your first hires? And he said, honestly, I am looking for people who can have conversations. Like, at the end of the day, like, the technology is moving so fast, everyone's learning at the same time. Of course, we want people who are smart and, can pick up things quickly. But at the end of the day, it is about compelling communication, because can you work together to solve a problem? Can you find out what the problems are and can convince other people about how to work together to solve them? So thank you again, everyone, for joining us for Tuesday Talks. It's been fun to see familiar names popping up. And thank you again for my esteemed colleagues for joining. And I know people are about to have these admissions officers are about to go on the road. So when you see them, make sure you're asking good questions. Don't just kind of hang out at the table. Go ask a good question, practice those conversation skills. And good luck on your application process. It's really great to see you all. Take care, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.